Hello and welcome all to my video today. Happy New Year everyone. I was requested a few weeks ago by Zine to create a basic leveling up system. So that's what I've created, is a very bare bones explanation of how it all works. Before I get into it though, I want to say thank you to everyone for the channel for last year. You guys were all amazing and I hope we can have another great year this year. So let's get into it. So the first part we're going to do is I'm jumping over to Excel quickly. And I'm going to explain to you some stuff around exponential curvature because it's important for XP systems and why you need to be mindful to keep them fun. So we'll jump over there quickly. So this is the Excel sheet here I've prepped. So I know this is a little bit unusual. Normally we don't look at things like Excel in our Gamemaker Studio stuff, but this is important so you can understand XP curvature. So when we've got XP in a game, we need to be mindful on how much it takes to then level up to the next level. So you can see here I've designed a chart very quickly just to show you guys the curvature. So right now I've got it at 1.1 or in layman's terms 110%. So if we look at what I've just explained here, it's basically x is our value of XP multiplied by 1.1, or it's 110%, or it's 100% of X plus 10% on top. As you can see down here, I explain it in a different way, which is just this how it breaks down. So if we go here and I go 200%, you can see here we get this massive XP curvature. So you can see here in the late game of your XP, just through 20 levels, you can see here it gets quite difficult to surpass that. So you can see here, if we look at it, it's 100, it's 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200, blah, 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 all the way up to the end. There are 52 million, I think. So if I go 1.5, you can see it plays with the curve again. So you can see we go from a relatively linear and easy progression from about level 10 to 11 to an exponential growth between our late game where we would expect our player to be to the end part. So for example, maybe 1.3 would be about a good exponential curve. The other thing you could do is, depending on how many levels, you would look at dynamically growing it based on your levels. But this is just a quick explanation and visualization so you guys can see how this grows. We'll jump back to Gamemaker now. Okay, now that we're back in Gamemaker, I'm going to show you guys what I created. So I'm hoping this is what you were looking for, Zine, because I couldn't see your original. So what I've created here is I've got a player, I've got an XP system, I've got a level up, very poorly drawn level up, may I add, player level, and these orbs are XP orbs. So when the player moves towards the orbs, they zap onto the player, as you can see, we get a little level up, we get a little level up icon. You can see now I've got an XP point to spend. I can spend it on speed. Makes my player quicker, and I can collect more orbs. And basically, as you can see, I can collect more of them. And basically, I can keep leveling up my speed. Obviously, I've designed it in a way that it only gives me the menu options when I've got the available XP. It shows me how much XP I need for my next level up. And I've got my player level attached here. Now, I've kind of based this off a little bit of how D&D does its leveling up rather than games, and the important aspect is, like I discussed in the Excel sheet, it's all about exponential growth curvature. Okay, here's all the objects I had to create to make this work. The basic concept is, and I'll show you down the list from each thing I created, so that's just the basic player. So there's nothing ultra fancy happening here other than the speed value in here that gets passed through to the speed button there that adds speed to the player. That's all that does. So in this explanation, there's going to be a lot of variable pass through because it's what you have to do to make a leveling up system, because you have to hand values back and forward between different objects to work out what you're doing. So for example, the orb, the XP orb, which I totally didn't rip off Minecraft there. What it does, in its creation event, it has a friction set. That's just to stop it from spazzing out. Then I've got a XP value, which is randomly generated between 5 and 20. It's just random. Doesn't matter. The next step is it sets the direction to the player. Now, I'm going to point out my own bad programming here so you can see it. Because this is attached to the player X and player Y, you need to do an object check to make sure the player exists. Because if the player gets deleted for whatever reason, it's going to spit an error at you. So just as a word of warning, you should make sure that you're accounting for this. I haven't, because I'm just showing you the bare bones. But you should always account for these here, just in case something disappears and Gamemaker starts to freak out because it can't find what it's looking for. This is the direction value, and then it's just a friction value. Speed. So speed is equal of friction, so it starts at a base of 0.2 or 0.02 plus 0.05. That just allows it to overcome the friction and start moving. And then speed is just a percentile or 1% extra speed over time. The next part here is when it makes a collision. This is where things start to get a bit more pass-through-y. Oh, actually, I need to increase my text size too for you guys. Sorry about that. What was the key? Now you're going to find me quickly bashing around with buttons until I find the right key. Oh, I don't know that one. There we go. Okay, now, in here, and as always, I'm never going to have enough space to do this. What I do is, again, I generate an object. The object is generated at the player X and Y, and the object is called XP sphere text, which is important, which creates a little text bubble to show you how much XP you gained. The next part is I pass over my XP to the XP controller so it knows that it's gained XP, and then I destroy the XP sphere. So if I come over here and I go to the sphere text, what this does is it grabs the amount of XP that the sphere held. It sets a time to live function. I know you can do it through alarms. I just set it through time to live. It's just the way I do it. Y is equal to -3, so it just moves upwards. Once time to live expires, basically, it deletes itself. The other thing it does is it does a quick draw of the XP value, in essence. Like so. So, basically, this is just it working out the dynamic width of the XP to center it, and then it basically just draws XP. So that's the first little step there. So the next part is that XP follows through into the XP controller. So the XP controller is a little bit more complicated, and I had two routes I could go here. Now I've actually hand-coded the levels, and I've got 20 levels to go through. You can make it dynamic, but with a warning when you go back to that Excel sheet I showed you at the start, the exponential growth curve, you have to be really careful. If it gets too hard to level up, your players will lose interest in your game. So that's why I hand-coded it a bit more how D&D does it, because in that way I can kind of tailor my levels so it's a bit better for the player experience, gives you a nicer curvature. Here I've got an XP amount, which is what the sphere hands over. When you collect a sphere, it hands it over to this object here, or this value, and that will be stored. The next thing is a player level, which just tracks the level. The level is also responsible for which amount of XP is required. So basically these two here are intrinsically tied together. Then the player XP points, which is just your spend points that you get from once you level up. So if I go into the draw function, you're going to notice I've done something a bit different where I've actually embedded my normal step event inside the draw function. And that's to stop the rectangles I draw from spazzing out. So basically the way it runs is they run simultaneously, so if something takes too long to get passed over, you'll get a bit of a spaz. That's why it's in here, to stop that from going on. So here, if we break down what I've written, I've basically said if player XP is greater than player level array, or it should be called XP array, but level array, versing the player level. So if they're at level 0, it's going to be versing this value, and then once they level up, it will go to 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. So what we'll see here is once it achieves this outcome, it will create an instance object of just showing a level up, which is just that piece of text there. It's the same as the sphere text. And then what it does, and this is important because you don't set it back to 0, you take the original level, so this value here, from your XP. So if you've got more XP than the level up, it keeps the remainder, because that's what we have to be mindful of. Adds a player level, which then updates the criteria here for the level up, and then adds an XP point for you to spend. The next part here is me just drawing the information. So like XP is just the XP in front of the XP bar there. My rectangle, and I'll explain this because I had to rethink this. My rectangle, so ignore the 46. So 46 here just means to place over to where I want it. 300 is the size that I'm drawing, multiplied by my player XP divided by my level. So that gives me a percentage. So that percentage will be between 0 to 100, or 0 and 1. And I multiply that by the size of my box, which then lets me generate a box based on a percentage value. That took me a while to work out. I couldn't remember. I have done them in the past, but I couldn't remember how to do it. My next one is I just draw a flat black square around it as well. So that's how I generate that little XP bar. Next, I just do a quick simple draw of the player level. Nothing fancy. Make sure you use a string value because this is an actual value. And then I just draw the player XP point as well where the XP button is. So that's how it manages the XP. So if I quickly reload the program, here, this here is all managed by that value. So as you can see, if I quickly, using the wrong keys here. If I quickly go, you'll see as it levels up, it stays within that box. So if I get just enough XP to level up, you'll see there that it keeps my remainder, which is what we need to do, and I get my level up point and all that. Okay, the next step. Like I said, there's a few different pass-throughs here. I'll quickly show you the level up text. It's nothing really fancy. Like I said, it's pretty much the same as the other. Nothing too revolutionary there. But I'll show you guys so you can see I'm not hiding anything from you as well. My next piece here is my level up buttons. And this is where it gets a bit confusing again. So my level up button here that I click on has to do a couple of things. The first thing it needs to do is set up all my options for leveling up. For example, I keep an ID of each of my buttons, and then I can create them where I want them, and then I can deactivate them. Now, deactivating is different from deleting. Deactivating means I can reactivate it later on, which means I'm not consuming IDs in my game, making it more efficient. So I basically deactivate my button the moment it's created. And then in here, and again, remember what I was talking about, make sure you have safeties in place in case stuff gets deleted by accident. So in here, I just do my stock standard left button and instance position versus ID. So if I pull up my ID, I'll move to the next step. So basically, I'm saying in this step, if my XP controller, my XP points are greater than 0, I am allowed to generate my button here or reactivate it, which then reactivates it on screen. And then if I right click for whatever reason, I just deactivate my buttons. So obviously if I had more stuff in here, I just have more activation options. So from that step, this is where we have to do our final pass over to then level up our player. Like I said, these things are a bit complicated. So this is my player. Sorry, this is my speed upgrade. And then if I go over here, and I wish I could get more screen space. Unfortunately, though, not always the option. So again, I just do the same button check. There's nothing fancy about that. And then in here, I reference the object controller again. So I put a safeguard in for whatever reason if speed somehow gets left open. Then I look at my object player. I pull my player speed, and then I go plus equals my player speed multiplied by 0.5, which will add 0.5 of whatever my remaining speed is. And then basically I will -1 to my XP, and then I deactivate my object. So the way that looks in game, and I'll just run it now for you guys, is just like this. So I'll collect some XP orbs like that and level up. Like that, if I right click, so this is me just right clicking, and then if I actually click on the speed upgrade, I spend a point and I get faster. So that is my basic XP leveling up tutorial. Like I said, this is very bare bones. Obviously, you can go much more in depth with this, but I don't want to overwhelm you guys as you saw just how many objects I've already got in play. Let me know what you guys think. You guys are amazing. Have a happy new year, and I'll talk to you guys later. See you later. Bye-bye.